Have you ever wondered why some women never say it, never confess it, never even openly flirt, but still leave you with this strange, lingering sense that they're drawn to you? It's in the air between you, not words, not gestures that scream desire, something quieter, almost invisible, but undeniable if you're tuned in. Most men miss it. They either barrel past it, oblivious, or they misinterpret it and ruin it by overreaching. But if you can read it, if you can see the difference between casual politeness and quiet attraction, you start playing the game on an entirely different level. Imagine this: you're standing at a bar with a group of friends. She's there too, not directly with you, but within orbit. She doesn't approach. She doesn't laugh loudly at every joke to pull you in. Instead, it's a glance, quick enough that you could dismiss it, long enough that if you caught it, you know it wasn't random. Her posture shifts slightly when you move closer. She doesn't compete for attention, but when you speak, she listens more carefully than she admits. This is the world of subtle cues, her quiet way of testing. Will you notice? Will you act like every other man desperate to seize crumbs? Or will you hold your ground and force me to reveal more? Here's the brutal truth: women rarely risk full exposure when they're quietly into you. They don't want to lose face, especially in public, so they operate in shadows, small behaviors that protect them from rejection but still give you a signal. If you're blind to them, you'll walk away thinking she wasn't interested. If you're overeager, you'll crush the delicate space she created. The key is balance, recognizing the game without lunging at it. One of the strongest signals: proximity disguised as coincidence. She'll find reasons to be near without formally entering your space. Maybe she lingers at the end of your table. Maybe she shows up in the hallway around the same time you do. Maybe she takes the longer path just to walk past you. These are not accidents. But here's the trap: don't call it out. Don't act as if you've caught her. If you expose her strategy too early, you rob her of the safety she's trying to keep. Instead, you let it unfold. You hold frame. Another subtle giveaway: her silence. A woman who's indifferent won't mind talking to you or ignoring you, but a woman who's quietly into you often gets nervous, quiet, even hesitant when you're around. Not because she dislikes you, but because her mind is racing. What does he think of me? Did I just say something stupid? Why does he make me feel this way? Don't confuse her quietness with disinterest. It's tension, and tension is attraction, only half hidden. Now, here's where most men screw up. They sense something and immediately try to force a resolution. They start asking direct, needy questions. They lean in too much. They try to fill the silence with endless chatter, hoping to coax her into revealing herself. And in doing so, they kill the very dynamic that was working. Because the attraction was built on her holding back, and you holding still. She wanted to see if you were patient enough, confident enough, centered enough to let her nervous energy stay alive. The strategy here is simple but powerful. Stay calm, stay observant, and use subtle reciprocity. If she positions herself near you, acknowledge her presence with something small: a glance, a half smile, but don't reward it with overinvestment. If she gives you nervous silence, don't panic and overtalk. Instead, give her space and drop a line that lets her step into it. Something light, something nonchalant. The moment she feels you won't suffocate her subtle approach, she'll offer more. Let me give you a story. A man I knew once went on a group trip with friends. He noticed a girl who, on the surface, barely spoke to him. She was engaged with others, laughing, talking, but whenever he moved to another part of the group, she somehow ended up nearby. At dinner, she'd pick the seat 2 down from him. On hikes, she'd drift closer when the trail narrowed. He could have easily written her off as just being friendly. Instead, He waited. He didn't force conversation. He let her tension build. By the end of the trip, she was the one who found excuses to start one-on-one talks. And she admitted later she had liked him from the start, but was too shy to show it outright. If he had chased her with clumsy eagerness, she would have withdrawn. His restraint gave her room to reveal herself. This is your edge. Understand that quiet attraction lives in the spaces between words, in the pauses, in the small choices. You don't need to announce you've noticed. You don't need to reward every subtle gesture. You need to stand firm in yourself, calm enough to let her signals surface without crushing them. Now, I want you to think about your own life. Have you ever missed a woman's quiet signals because you assumed she wasn't interested? Or maybe you caught them but went in too strong and scared her off. What's the hardest part for you? Patience, awareness, or self-control? Tell me below. I want to hear your story. She won't always give you obvious smiles or flirty remarks. In fact, the deeper her attraction, the more subtle she becomes. And this is where most men fall apart. You think attraction should feel easy, loud, undeniable like the movies, but real life doesn't work that way. Women test through silence, through mystery, through carefully placed fragments of attention that force you to either rise into awareness or collapse into insecurity. One of the strongest quiet cues is eye contact, not the long, unbroken stare that movies exaggerate. I'm talking about those quick glances, the ones that break the moment you catch them. A woman who has no interest will rarely look twice, unless by accident. But a woman who's quietly into you will steal looks when she thinks you won't notice. And when your eyes meet, she'll immediately look away. That's not avoidance. That's exposure. It's her heart slipping past her guard for just a second. If you lunge into that moment, teasing her or forcing her to admit it, you ruin the dance. But if you calmly let it slide, as if it didn't rattle you, she feels both safe and intrigued. Another subtle move, the way she mirrors you. She crosses her arms after you do. She leans back when you lean back. She touches her face after you rub your chin. It's not conscious, it's her nervous system syncing with yours. Men who are unaware miss this entirely. Men who are desperate exaggerate it, thinking it's proof she's in love already. But a grounded man sees it as what it is, attraction looking for confirmation. Now, let's make this tactical. When you sense her mirroring or glances, don't immediately reward them with jokes or compliments. Instead, test the depth. Shift your position slightly. Lean to the side. Adjust your pace if you're walking together. If she matches again without realizing it, you know it's real. You've just confirmed interest without ever asking, without ever risking rejection. That's psychological advantage. Here's where the trap gets deadly for most men: overinvestment. You finally catch on to her subtle cues, and suddenly you're chasing. You send long messages. You try to lock her down too soon. You bend your schedule just to be around her. That shift kills her attraction instantly, because what drew her in was your unshaken center. She wasn't attracted to your eagerness, she was attracted to your stability. By throwing yourself at her the moment you feel hope, you show her she has power over you. And once she feels that, she no longer feels desire. So what do you do instead? You flip the script. You treat her quiet interest as an opening, not as a promise. You respond with curiosity, not obsession. If she glances at you, you allow yourself a small smirk and return to what you were doing. If she lingers around you, you acknowledge her presence lightly but don't drop everything for her. If she mirrors you, you use it as a private confirmation, not a green light to lose composure. The less reactive you are, the more she has to reveal. Let me ground this with a real example. Picture a guy in the office. He's noticed one of his co-workers seems strangely in sync with him. She laughs more at his stories. She happens to grab coffee when he does. She hovers near his desk for small reasons. He feels it, and here's where most men destroy it. They jump straight into excessive banter, texting after hours, or fishing for signs. He doesn't. He keeps his rhythm. He chats when it makes sense. He doesn't seek her out. He doesn't reveal that he's already analyzed her every move. Over weeks, her signals grow louder until she's the one suggesting lunch. He never had to chase. She revealed herself fully because he created the silence for her attraction to breathe. That's the strategy let her invest. You're not passive, you're deliberate. You drop hints that you're open, but you never collapse into pursuit. Think of it as a balance scale. The more she tips it, the less you need to move. If you keep lunging, the scale breaks. If you stay steady, her weight shifts toward you naturally. And don't forget, attraction is fragile in its early stages. Women protect themselves fiercely. If she's quietly into you, she'll never gamble everything right away. That's why you can't demand clarity too soon. Your strength lies in patience, in restraint, in being able to read without needing immediate gratification. You're not a boy desperate for proof. You're a man confident that truth will reveal itself if you hold your ground. Now, I want you to ask yourself, have you ever ruined a subtle attraction by chasing too quickly? Did you ever notice a woman's quiet cues, only to scare her off because you pushed for more than she was ready to show? Or maybe you missed them entirely and only realized later. Share the moment in the comments. I guarantee you're not the only one who's been there. There's another layer to this one most men never realize until it's too late. A woman who's quietly into you often hides it beneath mixed signals. She won't give you a straight line of interest. Instead, she'll oscillate between warmth and distance. One moment she's leaning closer, asking questions, genuinely listening. The next, she's colder, distracted, pulling away. And you're left wondering, was I imagining it? Did I misread everything? That confusion is the very space where attraction either builds or collapses. Here's why it happens. Quiet attraction is vulnerable for her. She doesn't want to appear desperate. She doesn't want to risk being wrong about your interest. So she'll retreat to protect herself, then drift forward again when her guard lowers. Most men panic at the first retreat. They chase harder, desperate to restore the warmth. And in that panic, they show her they were hooked all along, confirming her suspicion that she had too much power. Attraction fades instantly. You need to reframe this dance. Her withdrawal isn't rejection, it's a test of your steadiness. If you respond with anxiety, chasing her down with, "Hey, are you mad? Did I do something?" or filling her inbox with texts, you've failed. If you stay calm, keep your rhythm, and let her come back on her own, you've passed. It's not about playing cold. It's about showing that her fluctuation doesn't shake you. That's the frame. She's looking for a man who doesn't lose center when faced with uncertainty. Think about it when you're around a woman you like. Don't you feel those small jolts of insecurity? You wonder if she likes you back. You analyze every pause, every silence. She feels that too. The difference is she covers hers with distance. If you cover yours with calm, you create polarity. She's drawn toward the very thing she can't master, your stability. Now let's get tactical. Suppose you're texting with her. Yesterday she was quick to reply, sending long messages, laughing at your jokes. Today, her replies are shorter, slower, almost detached. Most men immediately double their efforts sending more texts, asking if something's wrong, trying to prove they're still interesting. The better move, pull back to her level. Match her pace without bitterness. If she takes hours to respond, you let hours pass too. If she sends 2 words, you reply with 2 lines, not essays. That matching shows her you won't overinvest just because she cooled. And here's the magic: when she sees you're not chasing, her fear of losing your attention spikes. She comes back stronger. Or picture this: you're at a party. She's been hovering near you all evening, chatting, laughing, clearly engaged. Then suddenly, she drifts to another group, barely looks your way. Your instinct screams to follow her, to reinsert yourself. Don't. Stay where you are. Keep enjoying yourself. Let her feel the absence. If her attraction was real, she'll circle back. And when she does, she'll come with more intent. That's the difference between men who repel women and men who magnetize them. Your ability to let her wander without losing composure. I'll give you a story. A friend of mine once dated a girl who was painfully shy around him. She'd smile, linger, even blush when he spoke. But she'd also vanish for days between interactions. At first, he thought she wasn't serious. Instead of chasing, he lived his life. He didn't text her endlessly, didn't demand consistency. Over time, her quiet interest grew into bold pursuit. She admitted later she was terrified of rejection. But what made her fall harder was that he never panicked when she withdrew. His steadiness gave her the courage to step forward. That's what you need to understand. Her quiet attraction thrives in uncertainty. She won't hand you clarity. You earn it by being unshaken in the storm. You don't mirror her nervousness. You anchor it. That's what separates men who constantly lose women to confusion and those who turn subtle signals into undeniable connection. So let me ask you directly, have you ever misinterpreted a woman's withdrawal as rejection and killed the chance by chasing? Or have you ever held steady, only to watch her return with even more energy? Which one feels more familiar to you? Drop your story in the comments. I want to see how many men recognize themselves here. The deeper truth is this: a woman who's quietly into you doesn't just test you with her presence, her glances, or her silence. She tests you with your own need for validation. Because most men don't realize how desperately they crave proof. You want her to say it, to make it obvious, to remove all doubt. But attraction, especially in its early and fragile stage, doesn't work like that. The more you demand certainty, the less she feels it. The more you lean on her to reveal herself, the more she hides. So she gives you fragments. A laugh that lingers a little too long. A question about your weekend when she doesn't ask anyone else. A subtle touch that could have been accidental. And then, nothing. Silence. Distance. She wants to see what you'll do when the trail goes cold. That gap is where most men expose themselves. They chase, they press, they try to force more signs. What they don't realize is that she wasn't asking for a performance. She was asking for proof of your discipline. Here's the psychology at work. Women instinctively seek men who can regulate their emotions under pressure. If a woman feels like her subtle withdrawal makes you spiral, she knows she can control you later with even bigger games. And if she can control you, she cannot desire you. Attraction dies in the shadow of power imbalance. But if she senses you can stay calm, grounded, unbothered when she pulls back, then you've passed a primal test. You've shown you can hold frame when others break. That's intoxicating to her. Let's break this down into action. When she gives you those mixed signals, don't react with questions. Don't rush to prove yourself. Instead, redirect your energy into presence. If she withdraws, you don't chase, you let her feel the space. If she glances and looks away, you hold her in a brief silence without flinching. If she drops into nervous quiet, you don't drown it in chatter, you sit comfortably in it. Each time you do, you signal something powerful. Your uncertainty doesn't control me. My rhythm is my own. Think of it like this: men who succeed with women don't interpret every signal as a command. They interpret it as information. If she's leaning in, good. If she's pulling back, good. both reveal where she is. And your job isn't to scramble into alignment with her, it's to stay aligned with yourself. That's what builds her respect. And respect is the soil where desire grows. I'll give you a practical example. Say you're on a date. She laughs. She touches your arm. There's clearly chemistry. Then, halfway through, her energy dips. She looks at her phone, becomes quieter, less engaged. The average man panics here. He starts cracking more jokes, asking if she's bored, trying to drag her attention back. The smarter man does the opposite. He doesn't try to fight the shift. He slows down, he relaxes, maybe even changes the topic to something lighter. He shows that her wave of energy doesn't dictate his state. 9 times out of 10, she snaps back with even stronger interest, precisely because he didn't chase her approval. Another example, texting. You send her a playful message. She responds warmly. You keep the flow going. Then suddenly she leaves you on read. Hours pass. You're tempted to send a follow-up, to check in, to make sure you didn't mess it up. Don't. Your silence here is the test. She's waiting to see if you'll beg for attention. If you hold steady, when she does return, it'll be with double the energy because she knows she didn't break you. And here's the paradox: when you stop chasing certainty, you actually get it. Because the woman who's quietly into you won't be able to resist revealing herself if you give her space to. She'll come closer, she'll initiate, she'll make her interest undeniable. Your restraint becomes the mirror in which her desire has no choice but to show itself. This is where attraction moves from fragile to powerful. Not because you manipulated her, but because you proved you're rare. You're not like the others who crumble under silence, who get desperate at mixed signals. You're the man who reads the subtle cues, holds his ground, and lets her invest more over time. That's how quiet attraction becomes loud. Now ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you let a woman's silence get under your skin? Did you chase her and regret it, or did you manage to stay calm and let her come back on her own? Which one describes you better right now? Be real with me in the comments. The final layer most men miss is this: when a woman is quietly into you. She isn't just leaving breadcrumbs, she's studying you just as much as you're studying her. She wants to know if your calmness is real or just a mask. She wants to know if your patience is strength or fear. She wants to know if you'll fold when the emotional game gets harder. And make no mistake, it will get harder. Because once she senses you've noticed her subtle cues, she raises the stakes. She might start testing your attention through comparison. Suddenly, she's laughing at another man's joke just a little louder when you're in earshot. She might mention casually that some guy texted her, not to brag, but to see how you react. If you bite, if you show jealousy, if you get bitter, if you try to one-up, she learns you're fragile. But if you stay unshaken, if you don't compete or collapse, she feels the weight of your frame. Quiet attraction thrives when she knows you don't need to prove yourself against anyone. Here's the brutal truth: women respect the man who can walk away more than the one who begs to stay. That's the foundation of every subtle signal, every mixed message, every test. She's searching for the man who isn't afraid of her silence, her distance, her bait. Because that man is rare. Most men fold, most men chase, most men hand over their power in the hope of securing hers. So how do you turn her quiet attraction into something undeniable? You invert the game. Instead of trying to confirm her interest, you let her confirm yours. Instead of rewarding her every breadcrumb, you let her do the work of laying the trail. Your role is simple: be steady, be selective, and let her feel the possibility of loss. When she senses she could lose your attention, that's when she'll step out of the shadows. Picture this: she's been giving you those subtle cues for weeks. Glances, small touches, lingering nearby. You've responded with calm presence, light acknowledgement. but never overinvestment. Eventually, the tension becomes unbearable for her. She starts initiating more. She asks you personal questions, finds excuses to message you, maybe even creates scenarios where it's just the two of you. At that moment, you don't collapse with gratitude. You don't shower her with the validation she withheld. You receive her effort with composure, like it was the natural next step. That's how you flip quiet attraction into explicit pursuit. And here's the deeper psychology: women don't fall hardest for the men who notice them right away. They fall for the men they had to reveal themselves to slowly, painfully, deliberately, because when she invests like that, she convinces herself of her own desire. She becomes attached not just to you, but to the process of earning you. And that's when attraction cements itself into something lasting. But let me warn you, the cost of failing this is heavy. If you misread her silence as disinterest and withdraw completely, you may lose her forever. If you overreact to her mixed signals, you'll smother her attraction until it dies. If you let your ego demand constant proof, you'll never see the real depth she was hiding. Quiet attraction is fragile, and it only survives in the presence of strength. So here's the final strategy I want you to engrave in your mind. Be the man who can hold still while she reveals herself. Don't chase silence. Don't fear withdrawal. Don't crumble at her tests. Let her nervousness, her uncertainty, her subtle moves build over time until she has no choice but to step forward. Your strength is not in forcing clarity, but in being unshaken until clarity reveals itself on its own. Because at the end of the day, she didn't need you to chase her. She needed you to be unmovable enough for her to chase you. And when she finally does, when she breaks her own silence and makes it known, you'll understand the truth: she was never just quietly into you. She was waiting to see if you were strong enough to notice without breaking. She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.